He saw great cities beginning to build downward, sheltering underground against a punishing climate, with medicine conquering the diseases of age. Computation and intelligence wove so deeply that the boundary between mind and machine grew thin, and he reached toward a time near the end of this century when humanity would gain a working command over the structure of time itself. Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Today, we have one of the best episodes. I've been so excited to do an episode on this. We're going to talk about remote viewing the future. Let me take you back. In the autumn of 1979, inside a pair of crumbling clapboard buildings at Fort Meade, Maryland, a soldier sat in a dim room with a pen, a stack of blank paper, and his eyes closed. The Army handed him a sealed envelope holding a set of map coordinates and a single question. Somewhere in the far north of the Soviet Union sat a building near the water, and the intelligence services wanted to understand what happened inside it. The satellites had reached the limit of their usefulness. Every ordinary method had run dry. So the work passed to a unit that officially existed nowhere, staffed by people the rest of the military called psychic spies. The soldier began to write and to sketch. He described a vast industrial hall set back from a cold shoreline, and inside it, he reported the Soviets were assembling a submarine far larger than anything then sailing the oceans of the world. His sketch showed a strange double hull and a deck flat enough to carry rows of missile tubes set forward of the conning tower. The vessel struck him as enormous, secret, and unfinished. Then, the added detail that moved the whole affair into a deeper mystery. He stated with calm certainty the month the giant submarine would slide into the water, a date several months ahead of the moment he sat writing. The months passed. American satellites crossed the far north of the Soviet Union on schedule, and the photographs came back showing a colossal new submarine in the water, a twin-hulled Leviathan, carrying its missile tubes forward off the sail, sliding into the sea within days of the date a soldier had written down in a dim room at Fort Meade. The world would come to call the vessel the Typhoon, the largest submarine ever built by any nation. A trained human mind sealed in a room with paper and pen had reached across distance, and the same mind had reached across time. For more than 20 years, the United States government ran a secret program built on that impossible faculty. And the people inside it made a discovery that this episode exists to explore. The viewers kept slipping forward, tasked with the present. They returned with the future. And when the program turned that faculty deliberately toward decades ahead, toward the very years we now inhabit, the psychic spies wrote down a portrait of the world to come. Stranger still, they share that portrait with another group entirely across the same decades, a very different kind of seer, the mystics and the channels, who speak of unseen intelligences, described the future of humanity in startling detail. Two streams, one trained by military science, and one reaching through trance and spirit, looking at the same horizon. And when you set their visions side by side, they begin to tell a single story. Today we read both. The picture they paint of the years ahead is turbulent, luminous, and far stranger than any headline. So settle in, because we're about to look at what the future looks like through the eyes of the people who claim to have already seen it. Before we walk through the portrait, we settle one question. Can a human mind perceive an event that is yet to occur? The honest answer, drawn from the documented record, runs closer to yes than most people would ever guess. Fear launched the program by the early 1970s. American intelligence had grown alarmed by reports that Moscow was pouring serious money into psychic research for military advantage. The work arrived at the Stanford Institute, where two physicists, Harold Puthoff and Russell Targ, built careful protocols to test whether a person could gather accurate information by mind alone. A gift artist named Ingo Swann helped shape a repeatable method, and they gave it a clean clinical name: remote viewing. A pattern surfaced that the scientists had never set out to find. Viewers tasked with a target in the present moment kept returning with the target's future describing a sight as it would appear weeks later. After changes nobody yet knew were coming, the researchers built experiments to test the effect head-on. A viewer would describe a photograph that no one had yet selected, an image chosen at random and shown only at some future point, and the viewers described those unselected images at rates that climbed far above chance. They were perceiving a thing that had yet to enter the world. The community reached for an old word, precognition. The researchers came to suspect a subtle mechanism behind the effect. At the moment, a viewer finally saw the true target. That instant of feedback seemed to act as the anchor the perception reached back toward. The viewer was describing the future moment of learning the answer rather than the present moment of the question, the information flowing backwards from a fixed point ahead into the quiet, receptive mind. When the program faced its end in 1995, the Central Intelligence Agency commissioned an independent review from two experts chosen from opposing instincts. Jessica Utz, a professor of statistics, examined the numbers and reached a startling verdict. The evidence for an information transfer beyond the known senses, she concluded, had replicated across independent laboratories and reached levels of significance that science accepts without hesitation. In any other field, that effect was real and far too large to explain by chance. Ray Hyman, a career skeptic, declined to credit anything paranormal, yet conceded that the results ran stronger than chance and resisted the ordinary explanations of fraud and sloppy method. The two reviewers parted on the cause and converged on the data. Deeper science has only sharpened the picture since. A researcher named Dean Radin spent years measuring a phenomenon he named presentiment, the body's response to a future event before that event occurs. Wire a person to instruments that track heart and skin and brain, then show them random images, some calm and some disturbing. Seconds before a disturbing image appears, chosen by a machine that is yet to choose, the body begins to brace. The heart shifts, the skin reacts, the nervous system flinches away from a shock that exists at that instant only in the future. Across many independent laboratories, the effect repeats. So the faculty is real, weak, and stubborn and measurable. A trained mind learns to read a trace the future leaves in the present, faint as a whisper and persistent as a heartbeat. The instrument exists. What it found, when the program aimed at the years we now walk through, fills the moments ahead, which carries us to the only question that matters now. When the readers turned their gaze toward their years ahead, what did they see in our future? The most ambitious attempt to remote view the future belongs to a researcher named Stephen Schwartz, one of the founders of the entire field. Since 1978, he has run a single staggering project asking thousands of viewers a deceptively simple thing. Describe ordinary life in the year 2050, then in the year 2060. Across more than 4,000 sessions gathered over decades, he searched for the consensus, the picture that surfaced again and again from viewers who never compared notes. Schwartz built his confidence on a careful technique. Rather than trusting any single viewer, he pooled thousands of independent sessions and hunted for the points where separate minds agreed, treating consensus as a signal and lone outliers as noise. He paid special attention to what he called the low a priori detail, the perception nobody would have guessed in advance. Since an unexpected and specific image that many viewers share tends to mark a genuine hit rather than a cultural assumption, his method earned respect through its track record. In the project's first phase, running into the early 90s, the viewers as a group foresaw the fall of the Soviet Union, the rise of global terrorism, the arrival of a strange new epidemic that matches the AIDS crisis, and the steady advance of climate disruption. A later phase brought the viewers to the eventual flooding and partial collapse of American coastal cities. And in session begun in 2018, a sharp signal surfaced, a warning that somewhere between 2040 and 2045, several dramatic changes would reshape the structure of human culture across the entire world. Schwartz declines to force a single meaning onto that window, yet two candidates press forward from the trends already visible: the full bite of climate disruption and the final collapse of the carbon energy era, each carrying consequences that ripple through technology, economics, and the balance of power among nations. Now the portrait itself. Set the consensus of those thousands of sessions in a row, and a coherent world takes shape on the far side of the storm. The age of the gasoline engine has ended. A revolution in energy has decentralized power production so completely that energy stops being a limiting force in human life, available everywhere, cheap and clean and abundant. The single shift that unravels the old geography of civilization, the viewers kept returning to the same cause, with abundant, clean power available anywhere, and with information flowing instantly to any point on the planet. The two great forces that once chained people to dense cities, the need for energy and the need for proximity, simply dissolve. A person living in a remote valley sacrifices nothing of knowledge, commerce, or connection. The city across human history, a magnet for opportunity, loses its gravitational pull. With energy and information flowing freely to any spot on the map, the great dense cities lose their reason to exist. People stream out of the urban centers and gather instead into small communities scattered across the land, each one organized around shared values, shared interests, shared ways of seeing the world. The viewers describe a retribalization, a sorting of humanity into thousands of distinct settlements, some of them gentle and communal, some of them rigid and closed, all of them small. Nationhood itself has loosened. The viewers saw the United States become a loose federation, rather than a tight central state flowing down toward the local community and the region. Industrial monoculture farming has declined, replaced by local food grown close to where people live. The vast chemical fields that once fed the world have broken into gardens and small farms tended by hand and by gentle machine. A person in this world knows where the food on the table grew and often knows the soil it grew in. Air travel has thinned, the climate has bitten hard, rendered some regions difficult to inhabit, pushing great migrations of people and driving some of the new communities to shelter under domes against a harsher sky, both in heat and cold. Strangest of all stands the finding on population, which cuts against every present fear. The viewers saw underpopulation rather than overpopulation, the human numbers thinned by falling birth rates and by waves of pandemic disease. They saw most chronic genetic illness eliminated by advancing medicine. The viewers reported smaller and stranger details as well, the kind that resist easy invention. Great nations had given way to a patchwork of small conflicts among non-state groups, low and grinding struggles that the viewers said would tear at the fabric of the world without ever erupting into the single great war the 20th century feared. Healthcare had moved away from the hospital and toward the home and the local community. Travel had slowed, the restless motion of the old century giving way to a more rooted life, and they saw walking through that quieter and more scattered world a changed kind of human being. Schwartz reports that his viewers describe the emergence of a new species, a Homo superior, more intuitive, more connected, more attuned to the subtle currents of mind that the program itself had spent decades studying. A second voice from inside the program reached even further. Joseph McMoneagle, the soldier who saw the Typhoon, gathered his own long-range perceptions into a book about the shape of the coming millennium. He saw great cities beginning to build downward, sheltering underground against a punishing climate. Human lifespan, in his vision, stretched far past its present limit. With medicine conquering the diseases of age, computation and intelligence wove so deeply into daily life that the boundary between mind and machine grew thin. And he reached toward a time near the end of this century when humanity would gain a working command over the structure of time itself. Two trained viewers working apart, sketched the same broad world. A hard passage through climate and plague, and the collapse of the old order, opening into a decentralized, energy-rich, nature-reconnected civilization populated by a quieter and more awakened kind of human. We turn now to a completely different source, and we watch the same shapes appear. Set aside the laboratories and the sealed envelopes. Turn instead to the seers who reach the future through trance, through spirit, through voices they say arrive from beyond the ordinary world. For more than a century, these channels have described the years ahead, and their portrait rhymes with the one the psychic spies drew under government contract. Begin with the most documented psychic in American history, Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. For more than 40 years, Cayce entered a trance state and delivered some 14,000 readings meticulously recorded and reserved, many of them later verified. He coined the phrase that has echoed through every spiritual movement since. Earth changes. Cayce foresaw a period of planetary purification, a turbulent passage of earthquakes, shifting poles, melting ice, rising seas, and the breakdown of old social and economic and political systems. He described coastlines redrawn and great migrations of people, the surface of the world itself rearranged. Yet Cayce framed the upheaval as a birth rather than an ending. Beyond the purification, he saw a new age, a golden era of spirituality and peace, in which the divinity inside human beings would shine openly in the world. He spoke of a fifth root race, a coming evolution of humanity into a higher form, gifted with expanded faculties of mind and spirit, attuned to a new level of consciousness. The old boundaries of race and nation and religion dissolved in his visions as people recognized the underlying oneness of all life, a purification, and then a more awakened human walking a healed earth. Cayce placed the heart of this transformation inside the individual rather than the heavens. The golden age in his readings arrives as a state of consciousness rather than a date on a calendar, dawning as enough people choose love over fear, service over selfishness, and unity over division. He envisioned a humanity that learns to treat the whole human family as its own, recognizing a single life flowing through every apparent stranger. Another channel sharpened the cosmic frame. Through the 1980s, a research group recorded a series of sessions with an intelligence that called itself Ra, gathered now in the material known as the Law of One. Be sure to check out my episode where we do a deep dive on the Law of One. Ra described the Earth as a school of souls passing through stages of consciousness, and it placed our era as the hinge point. The planet, Ra said, has begun a shift out of the density of fear and separation and into a higher density, the density of love and understanding. A harvest, in Ra's language, a graduation in which the souls who have learned to choose love move forward into a new and higher vibration of earthly life. The transition runs through since the old energy and the new grind against each other, yet the destination glows. A new earth of greater light, peopled by beings who have chosen compassion as their law. The Hopi carried a parallel teaching across centuries. Their prophecy describes the close of a fourth world through a time of purification, a season of upheaval and testing, opening into a fifth world of renewed harmony for those who walk the path of balance. A native tradition, a sleeping prophet, and a channeled cosmic intelligence reach, in their own words, toward one threshold. The Pleiadian material gathered by Barbara Marciniak through the 1990s carries the same shape. You can check out my readings of Barbara Marciniak. They describe a great shift of frequency sweeping the earth and a humanity awakening from a long sleep into its fuller inheritance. Source after source, separated by decades and continents and methods, circles the same turning. Other voices fill in the same canvas. The entity called Seth, channeled across the 60s and 70s, taught that consciousness shapes reality and that humanity stood on the edge of a great expansion of awareness, a reawakening of the inner self. Seth spoke directly of probable futures branching from every present choice, and of a coming era in which human beings would learn to consciously navigate among those branches, an idea that maps with eerie precision onto the probabilistic future the remote viewers discovered in their data. He described a humanity slowly waking to its own creative power over the reality it inhabits. Kryon, a voice channeled since the dawn of the 90s, speaks of a recalibration of human consciousness underway in our time, a maturing of the species into a more peaceful and spiritually aware form, the awakening of faculties long dormant in the human design, and the intelligence called Bashar, channeled by Daryl Anka, describes humanity approaching a phase transition, a leap in collective frequency that opens the door, in the decades ahead, to open contact with civilizations beyond our world. A wider chorus sings the same melody across the present moment. Voices channeled today from the collective, called the Council, to the messages gathered under many names, describe humanity being prepared for a great leap, a new Earth taking shape behind the turbulence of the headlines. The vocabulary shifts from source to source. Its arc holds remarkably steady. Strip away the differing vocabularies, the densities and the root races and the recalibrations, and a single shape stands underneath them all, a hard transition in our own era, a shift in the very nature of human consciousness, and a luminous destination, a more awakened humanity living in a transformed and gentler world. Now, place the two portraits side by side and feel the strangeness of what emerges. On one side stand the remote viewers trained by military science, screened for accuracy, working under sealed protocols designed to strip away fantasy. Across from them stand the channels reaching through trance and spirit toward voices beyond all proof. These two camps share almost nothing. They use opposite methods, speak opposite language, and would scarcely recognize each other as kin. Yet they sketch the same future. Both describe a turbulent passage in the early decades of this century. The viewers name climate disruption, pandemic, the collapse of old institutions, mass migration. Cayce names a purification of earthquakes and rising seas and falling systems. Ra names the friction of an old energy grinding against a new one. Different words, one storm. Both describe a shift in the human being itself. Schwartz reports the rise of a Homo superior, a more intuitive and connected human. Cayce foresees a fifth root race, gifted with an expanded mind. Ra describes a graduation into the density of love. Kryon speaks of dormant faculties awakening. The trained viewer and the entranced mystic both reach for the same astonishing claim. The species that walks out of the storm differs from the species that walked in. Both describe the same architecture for the world that follows. The viewer saw humanity scatter out of the great cities into the small communities organized around shared values, bound together by free-flowing energy and information, reconnected to the land and to local food. Their counterparts, the channels, describe a more spiritual and communal and awakened humanity living in harmony with the earth and with one another. Decentralization, reconnection, a term for the material toward the inner life. The science-trained psychics and the spirit-channeled mystics reach the same destination by opposite roads. The convergence proves nothing on its own. An honest mind holds it with open hands. Shared cultural expectation could shape both streams. The human longing for renewal after catastrophe runs deep and could color a viewer's session and a channel's trance alike. Yet, the agreement runs deeper than mood. It reaches into a specific structure, the decentralization, the energy revolution, the changed human, the rough passage opening into a gentler world. When two methods that share nothing arrive at the same detailed map, the map deserves a long and serious look. Notice what the convergence fails to predict. Neither stream paints a sleek utopia of flying cars and endless growth. The optimistic future of the old technological dream nor do they paint a pure apocalypse, a dead planet and a finished species, the pessimistic future of collapse. Both reach instead for a strange middle path, a wrenching transformation that thins the human numbers and breaks the old systems, opening onto a smaller, wiser, more spiritual civilization. Such a specific and unfashionable agreement resists the easy explanation that both camps simply echoed the hopes of their culture. Honesty demands that we sit with the hard part of the portrait before we reach the light. Because every source insists on the difficulty of the passage, the years directly ahead in both streams carry the weight of a great transition. Schwartz and his viewers saw the structures of the old world straining and breaking, the climate biting, the seas rising against the coastal cities, the familiar nations loosening their grip. The channel saw a purification, a friction, a breaking down that clears the ground for what comes next. Neither stream offers a smooth and painless road. Both describe a passage through fire. And both name a window. Schwartz's most recent viewers pointed toward the years between 2040 and 2045 as the moment when dramatic changes would reshape human culture worldwide. McMoneagle saw the deep transformations unfolding across the middle decades of the century. The channels speak of our present era as the hinge, the turning, the harvest already underway. The storm, by every account, belongs to the lifetimes alive today. Yet across every source runs a refusal to call the storm an ending. The purification, friction of the densities deliver the harvest. The collapse of the old order opens the space for the newer communities and the awakened human. Each tradition frames the difficulty as the pain of a birth rather than the silence of a death. The dark passage carries a destination, and the destination shines. Yet the sources part ways on the severity of the labor. Some viewers and some channels describe a relatively gentle transition, a steady reorganization across a few hard decades. Others foresee a sharper convulsion, deeper losses, a narrower gate. The disagreement itself fits the deeper teaching that runs through all of them, since the severity of the storm depends, in their shared account, on the choices humanity makes right now along the way. This reframing matters more than any single prediction because it changes how the person meets the years ahead. A storm with no meaning crushes the spirit. One understood as a birth calls the spirit forward. The seers, trained and entranced alike, asked us to read the difficulty of our time as labor rather than ruin. Walk now through the world the sources describe on the far side of the passage and let it grow vivid. Picture a morning in one of the new communities, a small settlement of a few thousand people set among trees and gardens and fields, far from any dense and roaring city. Clean energy hums invisibly through every home, drawn from the sun and the earth and sources the old world barely imagined, costing almost nothing, flowing without limit. Food grows close at hand in the gardens and the local farms, free of the vast industrial monocultures that once spanned whole regions. The air runs clean, and the pace runs slow. These people chose the settlements for its values, gathering with others who share their vision of the world. Information reaches them instantly from anywhere on the planet. So they sacrifice nothing of knowledge or connection by living far from the old centers of power. Work has changed its character, freed from the grind of mere survival by abundant energy and intelligent machines. A person here spends the hours of the day on craft, care, on learning, art, cultivation of the inner life, on stories and entertainment, on ascension and awakening. Children grow up in this settlement steeped in the practices that the old world filed under the mystical, taught to quiet the mind, to sense the field of energy around a living thing, to trust the quiet knowing that arrives before the evidence. The faculties the psychic spies trained under sealed orders have become in this world an ordinary part of a good education. A person reads the mood of a room without a word spoken, senses a friend's trouble across a distance, and treats these gifts as nothing stranger than sight or hearing. The settlement governs itself through a depth of cooperation that the old adversarial world would scarcely recognize. Decisions emerge from a shared intention rather than from the clash of factions. And the people hold a long view, measuring their choices by the well-being of the generations still to come. A quieter relationship with the living earth runs through all of it. the community drawing what it needs while tending the soil and the water and the air that sustain it. And the people themselves carry a different quality. The sources agree on this above all. A human being on the other side of the transition lives more awake, more intuitive, more attuned to the subtle currents that pass between minds. They create realities immediately, they manifest instantly. The hard wall between self and other has thinned. Compassion operates as the practical law of daily life rather than a distant ideal. You genuinely feel what other people feel. Some of the sources go further, describing open and ordinary contact with intelligences beyond the Earth, humanity taking its place at last within a wider cosmic family. Please. Strip the portrait to its essence, and a single human achievement stands at the center. The civilization on the far side has reorganized itself around consciousness rather than consumption, around connection rather than accumulation, around the inner life rather than the endless hunger for more. Viewers measured it in decentralization and clean energy in a changed human. The channels named it a golden age, a new density, a fifth root race. They describe the same dawn. A single thread runs through every source that we followed, scientific and spiritual alike, and it carries the whole meaning of this investigation home. The future they describe runs probable rather than fixed. Remote viewers learned this inside their own data, their cleanest strikes scored on events a few months away, while the far horizon dissolved into vagueness and occasional error. A future carved in stone would yield perfect prophecy or none, and the actual record shows something richer. The viewers perceive the strongest current, the most probable channel of a branching river of tomorrows, and report it faithfully. There are infinite probable futures. None of this has to be real, and all of it can. Then human choice shifts the flow, and the river finds another channel. The channels reach the identical conclusion through a different door. Edgar Cayce stated it plainly across thousands of readings. Prophecy, he taught, arrives as a warning rather than a sentence, and the human free will can delay or hasten or avert the events foreseen. A successful prophecy of disaster, in Cayce's view, becomes the prophecy that fails to occur, because the warning moved enough hearts to change the outcome. This single idea rescues every failed prediction from the scrap heap. When a foreseen catastrophe declines to arrive, the seer may have perceived a real branch that the choices of millions then steered the world away from. The miss becomes the measure of human freedom, the proof that the river of time answers the helm of conscious intention. Unified intention, he said, can hasten the day when war will be no more. The law of one carries the same law at its core. Its harvest turns on the free choice of every soul. Nothing is imposed. Everything is chosen. Stephen Schwartz, after decades of mapping the future with his viewers, distilled the principle into a single sentence. Every decision you make, he said, casts a vote for a certain kind of reality. And he named the deepest finding of his life's work in another. The most powerful force on earth is the collective intention of human beings. Sit with the weight of that agreement. The government's trained psychics and the world's greatest channels, the statisticians and the mystics, arrive together at one conclusion. Tomorrow exists as a field of probabilities, dense and readable, near at hand, open and unwritten farther out. And the deciding force that selects among the branches is the focused intention of conscious minds. The storm and the golden age both stand on the table of possibility, and the choice between them belongs to us. I believe we can choose an amazing future. We have the ability to create our future. While this may be probable, if you connect to your future self, all of those predictions don't matter, because within your future, everything's going to work out perfectly for you. So we arrive at the place this whole journey has pointed toward, out of the buildings of Fort Meade and the trance chambers of the channels into your own life in this present moment. The future is reaching back towards you. The same faculty, the psychic spies trained under sealed coordinates, lives inside you already in every hunch that kept you from danger, every knowing that arrives before the evidence, every dream that showed you a thing before it happened. You are a remote viewer of your own life, equipped with the quiet awareness that touches what the senses fail to reach. And the world the seers describe, the hard passage and the luminous dawn, runs as probability rather than fate, which hands you a pen. This sits at the very heart of the work we do together, the practice I call the future pull, the disciplined act of reaching toward a chosen version of your life, feeling it real and present and already yours, and drawing it back along the strands of time into this moment, exactly as a future submarine sent its signal backward into the mind of a viewer in 1979. You read the probable tomorrow, and in the same motion you bend it. The seeing and the shaping happen together. The portrait, the viewers, and the channels painted carries a storm and a sunrise held together on a single field of possibility. Your daily state, your dominant assumptions, your focused intention cast a vote in that field, joining the votes of every other awakening mind. A civilization reorganized around consciousness begins as a single consciousness, choosing to reorganize. The golden age the seers foresaw arrives, one awakened person at a time, and you stand among the first of them. And that includes everyone, even those dudes that chose to wear a cowboy hat on a dare for a YouTube video. Every time you choose love over fear in the small hours of an ordinary day, you cast a vote in the field of probability, nudging the whole human river toward the brighter channel. The shift the channels promise and the dawn the viewers measured grow from exactly such votes gathered by the millions across a generation. That brighter world grows from the inner age each of us chooses to enter now. Begin tonight and begin small. Sit in stillness, quiet the inner noise, and let an image of the world you wish to live in arrive in fragments, building itself piece by piece under your patient attention. Notice which version of tomorrow carries the strongest charge of life. Return to it daily, hold it with calm certainty, and act from the feeling of that world already real. The signal grows clearer with practice, exactly as it did for the soldiers at Fort Meade. Choose the future that carries the most light. Hold it with the calm certainty of a viewer reading a target as real as any submarine in any sealed building. Live from the feeling of that world already arrived in your own life and in the life of the whole human family, and pull it home. The future is reaching back toward you. In this moment, reach back toward it and help write the future that comes. Before you go, I want to invite you to join the Reality Revolution tribe, where we hold weekly group coaching sessions, mastermind sessions. You can find exclusive content. We have incredible interviews that you get the first chance to watch. You can find the link in the description at www.school.com/Reality Revolution. Sending all my light and love, and welcome to the Reality. Hey, welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm Brian Scott. You know, over the last year, I have had the honor of hosting some amazing live in-person events, something I never thought that I would do. And I have grown and changed so much in these experiences. The opportunity to meet so many of you, to shake your hand, to hug you, to hear your stories, to watch the way that you grow, to see your changes, to get to know you. So many of you have followed my channel. It's been such an exciting experience. So when we were thinking about our next event, we decided we wanted to do something a little different. So many of you have found me through my teachings on money, on large sums of money, on the affirmations that I use. And so we brainstormed and came together with an amazing event. Over 3 days, we've planned out some of the most incredible meditative techniques, exercises, and teachings that I have ever done. 9 immersive meditations, all designed to shift you into the reality where large sums of money come to you easily and quickly. There is nothing I want more than for you to experience absolute prosperity. I want you to live a life where you are free to do what you want when you want. I want you to be able to choose when you wake up, when you go to sleep. I want you to lead a business that empowers you, that fulfills you. I want you to live a life where you choose where you live. You live in your dream home. You travel the world. I want all of this for you, and it's available to you. I believe when we come together at these events, magic happens. And so I want to have the opportunity to become a catalyst for you, to join me for 3 days so that we can manifest the most incredible life for you, one that makes you incredibly prosperous, where you tune into infinite streams of money. You walk through storms of money all around you. You experience it in every way, shape, and form. Large sums of money are coming to you. Join me in Austin on September 18th through the 20th at the Hyatt Regency. You can find the link in the description at www.brianscottlive.com/Austin-2026.